previously too, the time block editing was not in this page. So I'd have to have SmartPAD open twice, one in the editing page and one say in this page, and I'm trying to zoom in and eyeball, maybe run a piece of paper, the timestamp up, and then going back in that other tab where I'm editing, entering. And so trying to simplify that and bring it in here. This is our third release with V5, and so we're still like tweaking and finding little ways to make this a little bit smoother, a little bit nicer for the users. And so we're always taking feedback, and so I think we'll see this still get adjusted. The panel's been doing really well, but we're going to see some tweaks going forward here.
All right, so hi, my name is Alex Fortin. I'm the CTO at Colbor Technology. Today we're really happy to be able to show the version 5 of our SmartPAD application. So I got with me Derek Mathewson. He's our director of product. So he'll be doing a short demo of the functionalities and the look and feel of V5. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Derek. And Derek, let's go.
Nice. Let's talk about SmartPAD version 5. Why did we build it? Why did we feel the need to do another large iteration on this? And there's several reasons. One is our time block and our critical path. So time block editing, making it a lot more usable, a lot more intuitive, and fitting really in with how we're building our automation and building in those new functionalities. So something that has evolved over the last year is we've introduced ASR, automated stage reporting, and our sub activities. And so within a time block, we can see on this one, I have the Frac time block here. And what we've done is we've split up the time block into multiple sub-activities. And so this allows us to get more detail, more context of what's happening during that frac. So we split it up between start idle, pad, slurry. And from these sub-activities, we can build out an automated stage report. And so this time block is powered by our APR, our automated path recognition. And so this time block is being generated by our automation system, monitoring valves and pressures on site. And so coupling that with version 5, I open this up, we can see our time block editing, comes out in this little panel on the side. And so you're staying in the same screen. This editing functionality is now available in the critical path as well as in our custom views. And so it's a lot easier to get to. There's not a lot less clicks and a lot less navigation that's required as we're doing the time block editing.
Yeah, that was one of the big comment that we got, the feedback we got from customers about the critical path is how they needed to jump from a couple of screens. So either they needed to have two screens or have to go back clicking or forwarding back to pages in order to enter all the data. So that's one of the things that we solved with that new iteration in V5, and how we looked at kind of re-looked at the whole critical path essentially, right, from the ground up a little bit, and say how can we use that real estate on the web app to allow the user to have all the information without being too crammed. And so we did a lot of iteration right around that. And I think one of the interesting things, why haven't we just done that in V4, right? Yeah. And I think that also it's interesting to talk about because, at first, those things we wanted to bring into V4, but we had a mobile application. We wanted to be able to have the ability to run that application on tablets, because that's also a common request. We see more and more people out in the field or even in the office that like to have just a tablet or either it's Chrome or an Android tablet or an iPad in the office or in the field. And we wanted to have the ability to run there. Our previous version of a mobile app wouldn't allow that, or we needed significant work. And so since we needed to do some work on the mobile side, we wanted more functionalities on the mobile side. And also internally, from a team performance perspective, we were in a position where we had our web application in Angular and our mobile application in React. Mm-hmm. So every time we needed that, a new functionality we wanted to have on both platforms, both on the mobile and the website, it meant that we needed to develop these features into basically twice. Yeah. And that was really frustrating for our dev teams and for our web team. And so they kind of pitched, hey, we can do this better. We can do this in a single framework and use that kind of movement to a full Angular platform that runs both web and mobile, and also embed at the same time sort of those changes that we've been talking in moving to the platform. And so I think it's an important kind of like, that's kind of the story behind the why V5 came about. In our team, to my surprise, honestly, was like we're able to recreate that application in under half a year, roughly.
Yeah.
Because that project really starting to into the summer of 2023. So I'll let you maybe like continue the demo on that.
Yeah, and just to that too, like now that we've rebuilt everything in version 5 and had a second look at how things have coming into this, the amount of velocity that our team has built up from this, being that everything's fresh, they've living in this code now, and so things are moving really fast, and it's really exciting to see as we can tweak things a lot faster, and like we were saying, things are a lot more the critical path, our time block editing, all these components that live inside the application are in a much more robust place. And so, when we get feedback from our users, from field techs and from OSRs on site, we can implement that feedback and get those changes put in place much quicker now. And even V5 is going for, we have a big release today, and then just in the last 2 weeks we've done a lot of small tweaks and usability functionality that I'm happy to go through.
All right, so one thing like we talked about was the critical path and how we wanted to revisit really that user interaction, right? So maybe Derek, like you could walk us through like what's an example of like someone in the field and there's some NPT event or a Frac block occurred and they want to modify something, either it's like maybe you can show like change categories, add descriptions or stuff like that. Maybe they can walk through how that looks on the new version.
Yeah, absolutely. And so something we wanted to make easier is just like being able to grab this information quicker. And so we've added a bunch of things that just make things a bit simpler that way. So at the top, you can see the date. So it's March 4th for this test pad here. And so it's just easy to see, what time blocks I'm looking at, what stages I'm looking at. We also have the new stage selector, so I can come in here and find my selection pretty quickly. And we can jump to that spot. We can also filter by the time blocks at the bottom. So we can see, the time blocks highlighting as I scroll over. And so it's just a lot easier to see, what stage I want to look at, where I want to be thinking about. We can also add a lot of filtering functionality. So if I just want to look at, say, frac fracturing, and now I can come in and I can see I'm just jumping frac time blocks. So just hoping that it can, make things a lot easier, remove a lot of like these little small friction points, and so people can do what they need to, get the information they need out of the system, and then jump out and get back, doing the things that they need to be doing.
So in the V4 application, when I was going to open a time block and edit it, it would bring me to another page, right? Yeah. And so what would happen is sometimes I had some information there in front of me that I wanted to use in my description or editing something. But when it was bringing me to a new page, then, I had to either like remember what I was looking at to, enter in the next page or write it down. And so how does this look in V5?
So in V5, you can stay in this page. So you can come double click on a time block. It'll center it in the page. You can see it here. I can grab it here and I can start just pulling it and edit. So say, oh, it's this long, or I want to change this timestamp. We also can edit it from the side. So everything's in a single screen, and we try to make it a very clean panel on the side where you can, easily, okay, this is the stage I'm looking at. I can change my stage number, block type. We can change, what the activity is going on, what service company is performing that activity. We can add, comments to our sections here. You'll notice in this one, there's no sub-activities. So these time blocks don't have sub-activities, so only Frac and Wireline will see those sub-activities jump up. But it just keeps you in a single screen, and hopefully it's a lot easier. And so you can even drag this thing, and it'll just insert it where you want like where you drag to, it'll edit the time blocks, around it. If you're trying to remove other time blocks, it's going to jump and just populate on top of that. We've also introduced it, so I'm going to jump to another page here. We can edit the time blocks now in the custom views. So we can come into here and grab this, and if I grab a chart that is populating, it will look better.
All right, so yeah, let's look at the time block editing from the charting, because that's also something that also you want to jump from. You're looking at your charts. That's something that a lot of the personnel out there is going to be doing most of the time. And so how does that look when I want to, I'm looking at my chart, I'm looking at my wireline chart, for example, or my Frac chart, and I need to do a time block edit.
Yeah, so now in the custom view, you can edit the time block. We still get that same panel come out on the side here, and we can simply drag. We can see the values of any line that I've added in here on the side of at that time, when that timestamp occurred, when the time block ending or when it's starting. And so I can simply come in here. And
that's also something different from this application, right? So because in the prior application, I had my time block on top of the chart, but I had to eyeball roughly, if I was looking at a particular point on the chart that I wanted to use as determining where my block was starting and ending, I had to eyeball it, roughly from like through that black area at the top of the chart. But now there's something there to help me out.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And so you define that, and then previously too, the time block editing was not in this page. So I'd have to have SmartPAD open twice, one in the editing page and one say in this page, and I'm trying to zoom in and eyeball, maybe run a piece of paper, the timestamp up, and then going back in that other tab where I'm editing, entering. And so trying to simplify that and bring it in here. This is our third release with V5, and so we're still like tweaking and finding little ways to make this a little bit smoother, a little bit nicer for the users. And so we're always taking feedback, and so I think we'll see this still get adjusted. The panel's been doing really well, but we're going to see some tweaks going forward here.
While we're looking at the charts, one thing that was another common comment around our previous app or V4 app is the tooltips, right? Because sometimes, like you have people out there that are looking at a ton of different channels and lines on a chart at the same time, and then like we always have those tooltips to kind of like, so you can hover over your chart and know like more precisely what numbers you're looking at. But it would get to a point sometime where it was actually counterproductive, where like your tooltip would become so large that it was kind of getting in the way. And something that the web team has taken into account with the product guys like you, and looked at how we can do that better. So maybe walk us through those changes on that front.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's still some new exciting stuff coming. But let's look at, so we can see this is kind of what the old tooltip looked like, very similar. And now we have a few options here. So you can disable it, the old tooltip entirely, and so you just have a nice clean screen, and we can see where the values will sync to these charts, so you can use basically the cards on the side as your tooltip. So you just have a much cleaner screen. But we can also do disable group tooltip, and so that way the channels get split up, and so it's a bit cleaner that way. You can have more channels and still get a good sight on that, or just do enable hover only and look at singular channels. And so just giving users options and ability to use the tool the way they want and play around, and still open to other suggestions on how they want to see this. Something else we're building in, and that should be coming out very shortly, is being able to group the channels on the side by service or by well. And so this is something that comes up a lot with our offset channel mapping or offset wells monitoring. And so being able to group on the side and be able to see blue well or whatever on the side, and then see its casing, its tubing pressure, and have those grouped nicely and be able to sort and move them.
Yeah, and one of the main like architectural difference in the application that the web team has worked on this side, card list is the fact that it's not a single unit as it used to be in V4, right? In V4 it was a single component, and there was really no way to interact with it outside of just that's what you get in the order that you're getting it. And that's something that also a lot of the users would bring up. It's like, well, I'd like to see, I'd like to bring some of that stuff, because sometimes, here you're looking at a chart, you're hiding a lot of channels, but when you have a lot, there's always those that you actually care about like constantly, and those that you're going to want to look at every now and then. And the ability to sort that the way that the user wanted has also been an ask that's been common to hear from a previous app. So maybe you can talk about this portion too.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it just speaks a lot to, trying to get the usability. And so now you can, just be able to drag and drop cards and move them around. And then this saves to your user settings, right? And so even on like newer jobs, right? If I kept with the same crew, pad to pad, it's going to remember my user settings and what I like to see here. And so it's always going to look similar for me, and it just makes it a lot easier. You're not adjusting things and trying to get back to what you want to see.
One thing that if we go back to the critical path, I think there's also a couple of new things there that we haven't discussed. I think this morning you were showing me, was that on the, I don't know if it's there, but we have some tooltip on there too, on the critical path for the wells, right?
Yeah, that is a brand new as of today. So that's getting released today. So this is an exciting one. So adding this tooltip, and so it just makes so you can get a quick snapshot of the well. You have the UWI there, percentage complete, how far along are we at this well, and what's the current activity.
And as we are like working with frac companies and bringing their data, right, for their stage summaries and things like that, I think we're also looking at like adding new functionalities to that tooltip so that you can really kind of have like that base of working from the critical path, having a really good idea of as to like how your operation is going, how your data looks.
Yeah, we'll be adding just on that stages completed, there'll be like a small bracket of how many stages were imported from Frac and how many stages of data have we captured there. And so I think over the years, we've learned a lot of these user flows, what our users are trying to do and what their workflows look like. And it's a lot of information to capture. And so trying to be keep things very simple, but get the information that people need to get out of the system and in the easiest way possible.
Let's look at the factory monitoring for a moment. That's kind of like part of our signature type of feature, obviously, here at Colbor. So let's maybe take a look at that side of thing in the new application.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you're going to see it looks very similar to version 4. We got a lot of great feedback in version 4 that people really appreciate this screen. And so in version 5, it looks very similar, where you're seeing the latency from edge, how long it takes to get to this. So I know if I'm working something real time. We have our channel list at the bottom, and so we've kept that in version 5 because we get that people like to come to this screen and be able to get a snapshot of what's going on site. People that are aware of the operation on the site, they can look here and they know every well, what operation they're in. They can see, different service channels coming in and getting an idea of, where they're at with their operation and what I want to know.
Remote operation centers, right? That was one of the things too for them is always really important to look at the latency they have, right? And, another thing that we've done a lot of work on is keeping that latency down. But there are still sometimes some things that are out of control, right? And sometimes like we're seeing a lot of those remote operations center that are making real time operational decisions that impact what's going on in the field. And so having the ability to know like what you're looking at and the how fresh the data you're looking at any given time has been like a consistent thing that we heard from them, and that's kind of addressing that piece here.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big dreams in the industry and something that we want to enable and work with our clients is that being able to call a frac remotely, be able to make these decisions. And frac is an interesting type of work where you need that data within 1 to 3 seconds, and you need it to be reliable because you're making split-second decisions on, if you're going to cut sand, if something's going on. Like if you're trying to make these decisions remotely and you're having the people that have that knowledge remotely, they need that data. It needs to be low latency and it needs to be there available. And we really have no opportunity for that to be down, or else these decisions can't be made. And so that's the vision of where we're taking this, and we've made huge strides with version 5, with our latency, and with our automation system, which is tracking, what's going on site and keeping that information, fresh and to them in real time.
So I've always been a big fan of our analytics. So how does that look like in the new application? Like for users that are used to our analytics from V4, what can I expect?
I think you can expect to see a lot of similar analytics, and so everything's been brought over and cleaned up a bit, so they load faster. You saw that load time coming in, and now this is also in version 4, but we've brought over to the well banks, and so this is a great opportunity to showcase that ability here, where we can see they're running a tandem frac on this pad, and we can see both efficiencies coming through, as well as the complete how complete every well is. And something we're bringing into version 5 is being able to show skipped stages, and so that'll be added to this stage completed analytic in the near term, and so you just get a better idea of what's going on and making sure we're tracking skipped stages and making that visible. But we can go through, and something that we brought in, as you can see, we have a lot of screens. Over the years, we've built a lot of stuff. And part of coming to version 5 is the navigation. And so we have this side panel where you've seen me take us from custom views to FTM. And now we're
if I don't
analytics.
know what the icon means, like, does that extend out?
It does, yeah. So it'll extend out, tell you where you're going.
There you go.
They also have the hover tooltips, so it can help you navigate as you get used to these icons, and it doesn't take long. I've seen you guys, you pick it up pretty quick. You memorize. For people that are working this every day, this makes it a lot simpler. It keeps everything in, instead of a large drop down like version 4. Now I can come to the analytics page, and then I have my tabs here of the different analytics that we support and we bring in.
Sweet.
And so just going through these, and if you're familiar with version 4, these are going to look really similar because they're basically the same. And we brought them over because we know the value they bring and that they're used quite extensively. Exciting on the Frac tree view, and part of the way we've built in React is everything is a lot better componentized. And so that's what enables us to build from a single code base. We can go on mobile and on iPad and things like this. But it also helps us when we want to build new screens. And so one screen we have is the Frac tree view, where you can see in V4, you can see the wellhead as well as like the valve data coming in as line charts. So we're bringing that into V5. That's coming very soon. That's currently being worked on. And the nice thing with that is we can use the same component as FTM. So it'll be FTM with a custom view like in the same page. And so this opens up a lot of other possibilities too, where we can not just show the valve data, but you want to see FTM, like your well and your chems, your offsets, like whatever you want to look at, we can build those screens now.
And one thing that I don't think we ever showed publicly is how we do our valve grouping that support our automation. So I know it's in V4. Do we have that in V5 yet?
Yeah, like in the job configuration side of things.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking at here. So that's the other exciting part about V5 that we're going to is you can see that the job configuration is available in this tab. And so till today, we've never opened up this job configuration to our clients. It's something that we operate internally. But going to version 5, part of the hope and vision is to open up this configuration, give people the power to kind of control things a bit better. And so making it more usable, making so we can track what changes are being made. And so we are building out a system called audit logging, and that allows us to see what changes are made. And that way we feel more comfortable. We can open it up to users, and our operations team, our TOC and our field technicians can still make sure that we're providing the value and what we need on there, but users have that freedom to change things and make things look how they want them to look.
Let's look at a little bit behind the scenes on how we can organize our factories and how it can enable the automation through the auto path recognition stage summaries.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have where we set up the wellheads, and so we can develop any wellhead image here, and so we have a digital twin of what the wellhead looks like from the wellhead provider. And then we'll set up, we install our own VPSs and pressure sensors on the wellhead. And this is the the UI to create that mapping and to see that valve position sensor on the wellhead in real time. And so as you can see, as I kind of scroll, we can see it highlighting the different sections of the wellhead. And so these will map. And so what our automation system does is it's looking for specific names for these standard channels. And so when we see the upper master, automation's picking that up. And so it knows when, frac is starting or a wireline starting, because we're looking for that upper master valve switch, like moving, as well as other keys for us, right? So the isolation valve is going to be a big condition for us to be able to identify a frac time block, as well as the swab valve, on a wireline time block. But as we've seen, in the challenges of building APR, there's a lot of different wellheads and a lot of different ways of actuating these valves. So it was a big milestone for Cold Bore this year when we hit APR running on 100% of our pads. And so we're very, very proud to say we can work with every wellhead and every company out there. We can create those time blocks, and we're reaching towards being able to automate 90% of all the time blocks.
One other thing that has been released recently that was ported over to V5 is our stage summaries.
Yeah, let's jump to the stage summary. So we can see the stage report here. And so what the stage report is a combination of three ways to enter this data in here. And so we have what we call ASR, automated stage reporting. And so we'll calculate based off those time blocks and those sub-activities we're generating. We'll grab that, we'll look at the channels coming in from frac or wireline, and we'll calculate, I think we're at over 80 different metrics now. But there's different ways to look at these metrics, right? Like there's no standard approach in the industry, and there's a lot that can happen as far as data, as well as the different value that different data points bring. And so one example is like, say, our chem data or propant, where you want to capture both what's calculated off the sensors, but they have to bring in as well as, like, say, sand, those tare amounts, what's coming on the ticket, because they're not going to match, right? And so it's important bringing in these different sources from data. And so we also import and we work with pretty much all the frac service providers at this point, where we can bring in their stage reports. And so we can bring them into this, as well as have a manual entry side too. So if there's any issue with either of those, someone can come in and also manual entry. And we keep all three of those values. It's not that one is better than the other. They have, like we're saying with propant, they have different value, and they have different ways of reading that information. There's a few features in the stage reporting that were added. One being ability to filter, and so we can hide metrics without data. We can hide metrics that have errors. There's better color coding and things like that. So just small features that make things a little bit easier to navigate and see what's happening on pad.
Hey, Derek, do something for me. Go back to the critical path.
Yeah.
And shrink that window, that browser window for me. So that was also kind of like one of the issues with our previous application was like how when you had a smaller screen, it wasn't really well designed to fit into a smaller screen. So maybe you can talk to like some of the work that's gone there too.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what enables us to run on iPad and mobile and stuff like that. Is everything built in React is very reactive and updates very, very quickly. And so we can shrink the screen and we can see it's going to adjust. I think there's actually a bug here.
Great.
It was good. But we can see the one part, like the navigation, comes into this drop down now. So it just cleans up and you're not seeing that, pushing down all your content. So I can still see the critical path even if I'm on a smaller screen. We can go down to like a mobile size here, and you can see, it's still pretty clear and you can see what's going on. And I can zoom into time blocks.
And maybe you can look at the chart screen, because one thing, because your menus just like went all the way to hamburger menu once you move to your kind of mobile size, right?
Yeah.
And then like you can still see the critical path. Like we're still seeing we're ironing some bugs there, but that gives a good understanding of like the intent of how we're trying to move that application to that model where because normally if you go back to large screen, you'll see your card move all the way to the right. of the screen. But when you move to that mobile site type size, then all of a sudden your cards are going to move below your screen to give you enough space on the width to be able to look at the the chart reasonably well.
Yeah, absolutely. So just trying to make that as usable, because it is, mobile, with our current mobile app, like there's challenges. It's a lot of information to show on a mobile application. So I think this cleans it up a lot and makes it, and it also makes it a lot easier for us to keep updating. So it's going to continue to get better and be a lot easier to use.
So that's it for the V5 demo. So for our current customers that want to have access to V5 for both the web application and the mobile app, all you have to do is reach out to your Colbor rep, and we'll be happy to set you up on that new application.